I'll tell you a little bit about what we've learned about the brain, right? So originally we believed that the brain was fully developed in some cases by 16, by 18. There are studies out there now to show that the male brain sometimes is not fully developed until the age of 25. And the last part of the brain that develops is over here, which is the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part that takes care of the executive decisions. It's the one that does the judgment. That's why you see a 14-year-old kid who would be willing to throw caution to the wind and do something stupid, whereas an adult would look at them and say, you can't do that, you can really get hurt, or you can't do that, you have to do it this way.
It's the prefrontal cortex making a bad choice.
Well, yeah, because it's not fully developed yet. So a parent would come in and, so to speak, be the brakes for them. So now, throw on top of that the amount of stuff that they are exposed to. See, what happens is our brain secretes dopamine when there are certain things. We call it the happy juice, okay? So a kid who struggles with math, one day out of the blue he gets a 90. If we were to measure his brain dopamine level at that point, it would have shot up. He's got this sense of, oh my God, I can't believe it, I did it, you know? And then that wears away. And then the second time that he gets that 90, he gets a great feeling again, but it's not as strong, and it doesn't stay with him as long. When you're using drugs or alcohol, they really spike up that dopamine level, and that's what a lot of people, that's why, you know, we use an abstinence model. We believe in using no mind or mood altering substance, because in many cases a person will switch addictions. So if a person has an addiction, let's say to painkillers, in many cases I have people come in and say, listen, I just want to continue smoking pot. You know, I never didn't go home because of pot. You know, I just got to stop using the cocaine, or I just got to stop using the heroin. And we frown on that only because we know that a lot of times people switch addictions. We see people when they give up drugs and alcohol.
It's not going to feel good enough after a while.
We see people when they give up drugs or alcohol, in some cases, switch to gambling, switch to addiction to sex, switch to an addiction to pornography, switch to an addiction to food in many cases. And all of those things are spiking your dopamine level to different extents, of course, but they're looking to get something. Like, even I've had people who've gotten addicted to going to the gym 2-3 times a day, you know, because when you work out, you know, your dopamine, it releases endorphins and it feels good.
Yeah, I guess there are also degrees to which some of those things are healthy or not healthy.
Exactly.
You start with heroin, and you have, you know, someone who's a
working out too much,
runner.
right?
Probably you want to go for the latter,
right? Sure. Know. And even that, you know, absolutely. And when you give that scenario, but the reality of it is if you're married to that person, or if you're a mother to that person, and this person is putting their homework aside, or missing work because of this here.
I heard someone ask, what's the quality of your life? You say that's not so bad to have too many Twinkies instead of shooting dope. Probably, but what's the quality of your life like? Right. How you doing without the Twinkies?
Right.
You know, what if you have your Twinkies on a Saturday and now it's Tuesday? You enjoying Tuesday, or you're crawling for your Twinkies on Saturday?
Right. Well, now you're speaking to something which is my belief is that there is a difference between abstinence and recovery. So abstinence meaning that you no longer put the substance in your body. What we find is, in many cases when we work with patients, we find that if we help them to achieve abstinence, and that's all we do, a lot of times they struggle. And they struggle because in some cases, drugs and alcohol is their medication.
Right.
So if a person struggles
they saw
with
that as
depression,
their solution.
Right. If a person struggles with depression, anxiety, bipolar, in a normal state of mind, they are uncomfortable. And they find that when they drink alcohol, or when they smoke marijuana, or when they take a Xanax, that they're not even necessarily doing it to get high, but now they feel normal.
And by the way, some people have talked about the disease of addiction or alcoholism being a thing that you treat, or people would start off with treating with alcohol or other, you know, drugs or alcohol or however, you know, something that makes them feel better. And without that, they still have the disease, and it's got to be treated with something. And in some cases, it's something spiritual or some kind of.
Right, there's got to be a change. All right, so what we're talking about now is we're talking about when a person. So you heard me mention the difference between abstinence and recovery. That one doesn't equal the other. So abstinence just refers to if a person is using you're not putting the substance in your body anymore. Recovery goes a step further. Recovery is about not putting the substance in your body, but starting to take a look at attitudes, behaviors, and the way with which you
Your
live your life.
values.
Yeah, values, how you live every day of your life, goals. How, like I've had people who in treatment will tell me that I'm sober or I'm in recovery. They're dealing drugs, but they're not using drugs. And I heard one person in the group say, "So you're pissing clean, but you're living dirty." Meaning that his urine is going to be clean because he's not ingesting it, but he's dealing drugs to others and bringing miseries to others. So his attitudes and behaviors are still one of how can I get over, how can I get what I need, a selfish type of perspective. So what we find is that for people, there are different ways that they achieve that change. Some of them, it comes through therapy. Some of them, it may come through 12-step programs. Some of them, it may come from spirituality. Some go to church. Some go to meditation, different holistic approaches, Reiki.
Somehow they need to change.
Absolutely.
They need to change. So let's back up from the person who's at the brink of death or deep into addiction, but kind of in the middle, ahead of after the point where they've tried the drug. They think they have a problem, and maybe they're a little older. What can they do? What are some things that they can do?
There's a lot of things they can do, but I will be honest with you, Dave. There's something called denial that usually doesn't allow them, or they can't see it for what it really is. My experience shows me is that people that love and care for the person are the ones that see it first. So a person who, let's say, for instance, is drinking more than they should or starting to get a little out of control, their mind allows them to justify or rationalize it because perhaps they're still going to work. Or perhaps they see their friend that drinks all day long and they don't drink until nighttime. So they keep finding these reasons why it's not that bad. Then there comes a point where finally it hits, where, okay, maybe I do have a problem. So when a person does come to that point, I mean, what could be done is family members, people that love the person.
There could be an intervention, maybe.
Yeah, they can approach, because that's how you break through the denial. What happens is usually the family will say, you know what, I noticed that you haven't been showering every day, or I noticed that
you're not going to school.
Yeah, exactly. Or I noticed that I see some changes. You're not hanging out with your friends anymore.
Right.
You used to hang out, and you got these
your
new
attitude
people.
is different.
You're not going to shoot basketball.
But that can turn into a fight very easily.
Oh, absolutely.
That can turn into a confrontation because I guess part
Often
of denial.
Right.
Part of the denial is no, I don't.
Right.
Or look at you.
Right, exactly. So that's the first thing. But I will tell you, it's still a good thing because it starts planting seeds. And then what happens is, in some cases, the person doesn't want to hear it, and the family starts seeing it escalate, and in some cases, they'll need to have an intervention done. So some cases, they can approach the person by themselves. Some cases, they're not able to do that for whatever reason, and they'll bring in a professional person, an outside source, who will meet with them and guide them. It could, but there are places like the Long Island Council on Alcohol Drug Dependence that will do something for you if they won't let money stand in the way of it. If there's a fee and you can't pay it, they'll do a sliding scale. If you don't have money, there are different places that you can get it at a lower cost, and then there are places that will charge a lot of money. Very professional people come from different parts of the country, fly over here, meet with you. So
that's what I meant.
You can pick you can take your choice of that. But yeah, that would be another way, would be an intervention. Some people will go to, let's say, for instance, an Al-Anon, a Nar-Anon, a Families Anonymous, where they will start being in circles with people who have dealt with this, and they can get some support there and say, how did you deal with it? What did you do?
So that's great. So for family members, you have an Al-Anon or a Nar-Anon that's really for the family, so they can understand what healthy boundaries are, and they can understand well, would it be fair to say for the person who is addicted, who's struggling with this problem, on some level, in some way, they have to come to admit that they have a problem?
Yes. In order for change to happen,
they got to want it.
They're going to have to. Well, they're going to have to come to a point. I supervise a lot of people, and I tell them that one of your goals is to help the client see why would it benefit them to change. Why would they even need to change? because we know that if a patient buys into the process, the likelihood of them doing well and maintaining it goes much higher, as opposed to doing it because the wife wants them to do it or the husband. Not to say that they should not go anyway, because sometimes people come in for somebody else pushing them in, and then a light bulb goes off. They hear something in group in an individual session, and they start making that shift. But getting back to the family thing, it is when families, I find it to be crucial, especially with the age category that we're talking about today. 17, 27 is a big spike right now. Not to say that there aren't people in their 60s and 70s using, and the people 14 that are using.
Sure.
But this happens to be the big group right now. A lot of them are living home. And in the home that they're living in, there's chaos. So families here, on one hand, they love this kid. They want to do whatever they can. Sometimes that love causes them to enable behaviors to continue.